Hello friends, good morning to one and all. Today we are going to study the remaining points of the chapter carbohydrates. In my previous lecture, we have studied the introduction, definition, classification and nomenclature of carbohydrates according to IUPAC system. In the next lecture, we have studied reactions of monosaccharides including glucose and fructose, epimerization, mutation with mechanism. In the third lecture, we have studied interconvergence of glucose to fructose, fructose to glucose, glucose to mannose, glucose to arabinose, which is known as rough degradation, and arabinose to glucose, which is known as kinase synthesis. Now today we are going to study the remaining points that are here: open and cyclic structure of glucose and manufacturing of sucrose, that is sugar, from sugarcane. So these are the two important points we are going to study in today's lecture. So let us see first of all the open chain structure of glucose, and the supporting evidences for the open chain structure of glucose are: number one, first one is about its molecular formula. So on the basis of elemental analysis and molecular weight determination, it has been found that the molecular formula of glucose is C6H12O6. Now second evidence for the open chain structure of glucose is here the reduction of glucose with red phosphorus and hydroiodic acid, that gives a mixture of N-hexane and 2-iodohexane. So which indicates that there is 6 carbon atoms in a glucose molecule and they are in the form of straight chain. So this is the reaction that indicates the reduction of glucose molecule with red phosphorus and hydroiodic acid at 373 Kelvin, that gives N-hexane and 2-iodohexane. So this is the second point. So we know here about the molecular formula of glucose, that is C6H12O6, and also the number of carbon atoms in the glucose, that are the 6 carbon atoms. Now the third evidence is glucose that forms the pentaacetate when treated with acetic anhydride or acetyl chloride. So this indicates that there are 5 hydroxyl groups in a glucose molecule. So all these 5 hydroxyl groups, they are acylated and that forms the pentaacetate derivative of the glucose. So the reaction is shown here. So this is the glucose molecule. There are 4 hydroxyl groups and 1 hydroxyl, total 5 hydroxyl groups in a glucose molecule, and when it is treated with this acetic anhydride, then it forms a glucose pentaacetate. This is the COCS3. This is the acetyl group, and as there are 4, and this is the 5th one, COCS3, total 5 acetyl groups. So these 5 hydroxyl groups that are replaced by this 4 acetyl groups. So we get here glucose pentaacetate, and byproduct is here acetic acid. And when acetyl chloride is used instead of acetic anhydride, then we will have this glucose pentaacetate, and side product is the hydrochloric acid. Now next evidence, that is fourth one, is glucose when allowed to react with the hydroxylamine, it forms the oxime. Glucose when react with the hydrogen cyanide, that forms the cyanohydrine, and glucose when reacts with phenylhydrazine, that forms glucose phenylhydrazone. So all these 3 reactions that are shown here, this is the glucose molecule, this is the aldehyde group, and CHOH 4 times CH2H, this is glucose. When first of all it is treated with hydroxylamine, then this H2 and this O from the aldehyde, that is given out as water molecule, and we have this oxime. When this glucose is treated with the HCN, that is hydrogen cyanide, then the addition of this HCN occurs across this double bond of this carbonyl group, and we have this addition product which is known as glucose cyanohydrine. And the third reaction is when this phenylhydrazine, it is reacted or treated with this glucose, then it forms the glucose phenylhydrazone. So here also this H2 and this carbonyl oxygen, that is given out as water molecule, and we have this glucose phenylhydrazone. So all these three reactions, that indicates there is presence of carbonyl group in a glucose molecule. So this is the evidence for the presence of carbonyl group in a glucose molecule. So these three reactions, that is the reaction of glucose with hydroxylamine, with hydrogen cyanide, and with phenylhydrazine, all these three reactions indicates that there is a carbonyl group in a glucose molecule. Now the next evidence for the open chain structure of glucose is here the mild oxidation of glucose with bromine water or using the sodium hypobromite, that gives monocarboxylic acid which is known as gluconic acid, and that contains the same number of carbon atoms, that is 6, which are present in the glucose molecule. And it also indicates that this carbonyl group is always in the form of aldehyde group. So this is the reaction. So glucose when oxidized using this mild oxidizing agent like bromine water or sodium hypobromite, then only this aldehyde group, that is oxidized to carboxyl group. So this indicates that there is the presence of carbonyl group in the form of aldehyde in the glucose molecule. So we are known till now, that is the molecular formula of glucose, then number of carbon atoms, that is 6 in the glucose molecule, and the functional groups, total 5 hydroxyl groups and 1 aldehyde group in a glucose molecule. So the next step, that is the oxidation, that is the presence of aldehyde group. That is also confirmed by another one test where the hydrolysis of the cyanohydrine obtained from glucose on reduction with hydroiodic acid, that gives N-heptenoic acid. So this test also used as a confirmatory test for the presence of aldehyde group in a glucose molecule. So let us see this reaction. You know the addition of HCN molecule that occurs across this carbon oxygen double bond, and we get this glucose cyanohydrine, and this glucose cyanohydrine on hydrolysis and obtained product on treatment with hydroiodic acid, means that is the on reduction, that gives this N-heptenoic acid. So this is the carboxyl group, this cyanide group that is oxidized to this carboxyl group, and remaining that are the 6 carbon atoms, CH2 and this CH2 4 times total 5, and this CH3 total 6 carbon atoms and 1 carboxyl. So it is the N-heptenoic acid. So this test also indicates that there is a aldehyde group in a glucose molecule. Now the next evidence for the open chain structure of glucose is the reduction of glucose. The reduction that is carried out in presence of this sodium borohydride, so which is the catalytic reduction, and this glucose on reduction that gives the hexahydric alcohol which is known as here glucitol or sorbitol, and on treatment with acetic anhydride, this glucitol that gives the hexaacetate, and this indicates that there are 6 hydroxyl group that must be obtained by the reduction of aldehyde group. And the reduction of glucitol with hydroiodic acid and red phosphorus at 100 degrees Celsius temperature, that gives the N-hexane. So the presence of this aldehyde group, that is also further confirmed, and there are the 5 hydroxyl groups in a glucose molecules. So both the functional groups, aldehyde and hydroxyl groups, that are confirmed, means they are present in the glucose molecule. Now this is the reaction that shows here the reduction of this glucose molecule using this hydrogen gas in presence of platinum, or bypassing hydrogen gas in presence of nickel, or using the sodium borohydride, that gives the hexahydric alcohol, which is known as glucitol, or it is also known as the sorbitol. And this sorbitol on treatment with this acetic anhydride, that forms the hexaacetate derivative of this sorbitol. It is also known as acetyl derivative. So this test indicates, or it is the confirmatory test for the presence of the aldehyde group as well as the 5 hydroxyl groups in a glucose molecule. Now let us see here the next step, that is the oxidation of glucose with hydroiodic acid and red phosphorus. It is, we know that gives the mixture of N-hexane and 2-iodohexane, and that proves the presence of 6 carbon atoms in a straight chain in glucose molecule. So this is the reaction that we have already studied, that is glucose molecule. It is on reduction using this hydroiodic acid in presence of red phosphorus at temperature 373 Kelvin. So this 373 is repeated, it is a typographical mistake, so please consider here only 373 Kelvin. Now it gives a mixture of N-hexane and 2-iodohexane. So this test is confirmatory test that proves the open chain structure of glucose, or we can say that straight chain structure of glucose. And next evidence, that is oxidation of glucose with strong oxidizing agent like nitric acid, that gives dicarboxylic acid, and from glucose we get glucaric acid, that is also known as saccharic acid. And this glucaric acid or saccharic acid, that contains the same number of carbon atoms as present in glucose molecule, and that is nothing but the 6. Now let us see, this is the reaction, glucose aldehyde group, then CHOH 4 times CH2H. This is the glucose molecule, and when it is oxidized using this nitric acid, then the aldehyde group as well as this primary alcoholic OH group, that is oxidized to carboxyl group, and we get dicarboxylic acid, which is here glucaric acid. So this test that also indicates there is presence of the aldehyde group and primary alcoholic OH group, means these are the monovalent, so they may be present on either side or to the terminal, or we can say that to the ends of this carbon chain. So this test indicates, besides the aldehyde group, glucose molecule must contain primary alcoholic group, that is CH2OH, and that primary alcoholic OH groups generates the second carboxyl group on oxidation using this strong oxidizing agent. Furthermore, these two groups, that is aldehyde group and primary alcoholic group, that is CH2OH group, both are the monovalent, and they must be present on either end of straight chain of 6 carbon atoms. So this test confirms the presence of one aldehyde group and 5 hydroxyl groups. So overall, the evidences, they are shown here in short, that is the glucose on treatment with this hydroiodic acid and red phosphorus, that gives N-hexane, that indicates there are 6 carbon atoms in a glucose molecule. Then the glucose on reduction with this catalytic reduction, like bypassing hydrogen gas in presence of nickel or in presence of platinum, or using this sodium borohydride, that gives the hexahydric alcohol, that is sorbitol. And this sorbitol on treatment with acetic anhydride, that gives hexaacetate or acetyl derivative, that indicates that there must be presence of the one aldehyde group and 5 hydroxyl groups. Furthermore, the oxidation of the glucose using the weak oxidizing agent like bromine water or sodium hypobromite, that gives monocarboxylic acid, that is the gluconic acid. This also indicates that the presence of the aldehyde group in the glucose molecule, that is only that aldehyde group is oxidized to carboxyl group. Further, this glucose or on oxidation with this nitric acid, or this gluconic acid on oxidation with nitric acid, that gives the dicarboxylic acid, which is known as glucaric acid. So here this second carboxyl group, that is obtained by the oxidation of this primary alcoholic OH group, that is CH2OH group. So this test also confirms the presence of primary alcoholic OH group in the glucose molecule. Furthermore, the addition of the HCN molecule on the glucose molecule, that gives the glucose cyanohydrine, and this glucose cyanohydrine on hydrolysis and further on reduction using hydroiodic acid, that gives N-heptenoic acid. So all this test that indicates that in a glucose molecule there is one aldehyde group and 5 hydroxyl groups, and all these are in a straight chain. So this is the open chain structure of the glucose molecule. So the open chain structure of glucose, that is also confirmed by another one test, that is the cleavage reaction of glucose using periodic acid. So by cleavage of glucose molecule using periodic acid, we have 5 moles of periodic acid that are required to cleavage the glucose molecule, and that glucose molecule, one glucose molecule consumes 5 moles of periodic acid, and that forms 5 moles of formic acid and 1 mole of formaldehyde. Let us see the reaction. The glucose molecule C6H12O6, when it is treated with periodic acid, 5 molecules of HiO4, they are required to break down this glucose molecule into formic acid and formaldehyde. So we get here formic acid HCOH and 1 formaldehyde molecule and 5 molecules of the iodic acid. So stepwise cleavage of the glucose molecule, that is shown here with hydroiodic acid. So this is the complete cleavage of the glucose molecule, step by step shown here. So first of all, this carbon bond is ruptured, and this group is, that is oxidized to formic acid, and this group, that is oxidized to aldehyde, and byproduct is here hydroiodic acid. Now this is the second step or second molecule of periodic acid that is used or consumed, and we get the another one product, and here byproducts, that are the formic acid and hydroiodic acid. So step by step, this is the third molecule of periodic acid, this is fourth molecule of periodic acid that is used, and this is the fifth molecule of periodic acid. So in each step there is formation of one formic acid molecule, and finally there is formation of one aldehyde. So total 5 molecules of formic acid and 1 molecule of formaldehyde that are obtained. So this is the stepwise cleavage of glucose molecule. So this test also proves the open chain structure of glucose molecule. Now this open chain structure of glucose has some drawbacks. Now let us see what are the drawbacks of open chain structure of glucose. So let's see, first drawback is glucose does not restore pink coloration of Gibbs, or you can say that Gibbs reagent, and the restore of pink color of the Gibbs reagent, that is a characteristic test of the aldehyde group, but this test is negative here, as glucose does not restore the pink color of Gibbs reagent. Next drawback is glucose does not react with ammonia or sodium bisulfate to form addition compounds. So this test also negative here. So this is the second drawback. So this test indicates that the aldehyde group in glucose molecule is not free. Now here the D-glucose that may exist in two isomeric forms, that is alpha D glucose and beta D glucose, which may undergo mutarotation, and that is not explained by the open chain structure of glucose. So mutarotation is nothing but the phenomenon to change the specific rotation of an optically active compound with time to an equilibrium value of 53 degree, which is called here mutarotation. Now let us see the cyclic structure of D-glucose. Now the evidences or supporting points for the presence of or existence of the cyclic structure of D-glucose are given by here Haworth and Hist. Both have in 1926 suggested a 6-membered ring structure of D-glucose, and this 6-membered D-glucose that contains a ring of 5 carbon atoms and 1 oxygen atom, and this ring, it is known as amylase oxide, or it is also known as pyranose ring structure. So this ring is shown here. This is the 6-membered ring. Out of that 6, 5 are carbon atoms and 1 is the oxygen, and there are 2 double bonds. So such ring, it is the pyrene ring. So the presence of this 6-membered ring in D-glucose is also confirmed by X-ray analysis. So X-ray analysis also confirms that there is a presence of 6-membered ring in a glucose molecule. So the structure of glucose that resembles with 6-membered heterocycles that containing 5 carbon and 1 oxygen, and that is nothing but the pyrene ring. Now the cyclic form of D-glucose given by Fischer, so it is known as Fischer representation. So this cyclic form of D-glucose can be represented in the form of pyrene, and it is known as pyranose ring structure. So here it means in the Fischer formula, all the hydroxyl groups in a glucose molecule on the right hand side are directed below the plane of the ring, while all the hydroxyl groups on the left hand side in the Fischer formula, they are directed above the plane of the ring, and the terminal primary alcoholic group, that is CH2OH group, that is always above the plane of the ring. So let us see here the structure. This is the Fischer formula. Here the hydroxyl groups which are to the left hand side, they lies below the plane, and the hydroxyl groups which are to the left hand side, they lies above the plane. So if we start from this, here CH2OH group or primary OH group, that is always above the plane of the ring, and this is the oxygen. Now here to this one, this hydroxyl group is to the right hand side, so that is always below the plane. Then next hydroxyl group, this is also to the right hand side, that also lies below the plane. Then this hydroxyl group to the left hand side, so it lies above the plane of this 6-membered ring, and this 5th hydroxyl group, that is to the right hand side, so that lies below the plane of this 6-membered ring. So this is the Haworth representation of alpha D glucopyranose. Now let us see here the beta D glucopyranose. Here also we have to follow the same rule. The hydroxyl groups which are to the right side in the Fischer formula, they must be shown below the plane of this 6-membered ring, and the hydroxyl groups which are to the left hand side, they must be above the plane of the ring, and this primary alcoholic group, that is CH2OH, that is always above the plane of the ring. So let us see the representation of this Haworth according and here from this Fischer. So in this Fischer, this primary CH2OH group, so that is shown here, that is always above the plane of the ring, the 6-membered ring. Now next one is this OH group, that is to the left hand side, so that is always to the above the plane, so it is lies above the plane of the ring. Now here second OH group, that is actually this is the third one. First one is this primary, this is the second OH group, and this is the third. So this third OH group, that is to the right hand side, so it always shown below the plane of the ring. Then fourth one OH group, that is to the left hand side, so it is always above the plane. And fifth one hydroxyl group, it is to the right side in Fisher formula, so it is always above the below the plane of this ring. So this is the Haworth projection. So this is the representation of beta D glucopyranodes. So all these alpha D glucopyranodes and beta D glucopyranodes, they are shown here. So this is the comparison here. What is difference in the alpha D glucose and beta D glucose? Only in the configuration of this OH group. So in the alpha D glucopyranodes or alpha D glucose, this OH group in the Fisher formula is to the right side, and that's why it is below the plane of the six-membered ring of this pyranose ring. And in the beta D glucopyranodes or beta D glucose, as the hydroxyl group is to the left hand side, it is above the plane of the ring. Only this one is the difference. Remaining all is the same one. In the case of say alpha D glucopyranodes and beta D glucopyranodes, or alpha D glucose and beta D glucose. Now this pyranodes ring structure of glucose, that explains all the drawbacks of its open chain structure. So here there is no aldehyde group free, so that is confirmed, and that's why glucose does not show or does not restore pink color of Kip's reagent. As there is no free aldehyde group, glucose does not react with sodium bisulfite or ammonia, and glucose pentaacetate does not react with hydroxylamine due to absence of free aldehyde group in a glucose molecule. Glucose exhibits the phenomenon of mutarotation, that is due to the presence of this ring structure of the glucose, and glucoside formation that confirms the cyclic structure of glucose. It means that glucose, when treated with methanol in presence of dry hydrochloric acid, that gives two isomeric acetals which are known as glycosides, and they are named as methyl alpha D glucoside and methyl beta D glucoside. This is the methyl beta D glucoside, and the crystalline, these glucosides, they are optically active, but they do not give any reactions of free aldehyde group. This means that these two glucosides are the methyl derivatives of alpha D glucose and beta D glucose, formed by the result of the reaction between hemiacetal hydroxyl group of these forms and methanol. Now let us say this is the alpha D glucose. You know, here hydroxyl group is to the right hand side. When it is treated with methanol, that forms this methyl alpha D glucoside. Means here the hydroxyl group that is replaced by the methoxy group, and this is known as the methyl alpha D glucoside, and there is no aldehyde reaction. Similarly here beta D glucose, where the hydroxyl group, this one, that is lies to the left hand side. So this beta D glucose, when treated with methanol or methyl alcohol in dry hydrochloric acid, that gives the methyl beta D glucoside. There is also no aldehyde reaction, and this hydroxyl group is replaced by this methoxy group. So this is the methyl beta diglucoside formation. So this test indicates that there is no aldehyde group in free state. So we have studied the open chain structure of glucose and cyclic structure of glucose. Now after that, the last point is we have to study, that is here the manufacture of sucrose or manufacture of sugar from sugar cane. So first of all, we must know what is sucrose or what is sugar. So the molecular formula of sucrose is C12H22O11. So the sucrose, that is a organic chemical or organic compound, and it is from the carbohydrate family. Generally it is found in the sap of most of the green plants, and the molecular formula of sucrose is C12H22O11. Now ordinary white crystal sugar, which is almost pure and that contains 99% or 99.9% sucrose, but when there are non-crystalline sugars, then they contain less than this 99.9% sucrose. For example, if we consider the syrup, then that contains near about 50% sucrose, and in jaggery, that is in Marathi we can say that gul, and Hindi that is a gud, that contains near about 80% sucrose. So this is the general introduction regarding the sucrose, or you can say that sugar. Now let us see about the structure of sucrose. So the structure of sucrose, that consists of two units. One unit is of glucose and other is of fructose, and these two units are linked together by alpha 1,2 glycosidic bond, and that's why this sucrose, it is known as a disaccharide, because it contains these two units, that is glucose and fructose. They are linked via this bond, that is alpha 1,2 glycosidic bond. So sucrose is example of disaccharide. It is the structure of sucrose. So this is the glucose molecule, and it is linked to this fructose molecule via this alpha 1,2 glycosidic bond. So this is the sucrose molecule, that consists of the glucose and fructose units joined together via this bond, that is alpha 1,2 glycosidic bond. This is alpha 1,2 glycosidic bond. So this is the structure of sucrose. Now our main aim is the manufacture of cane sugar, that is the sucrose from sugar cane. So you know the molecular formula of sucrose is C12H22O11. So our main aim is manufacturing of cane sugar or sucrose from sugar cane. So we know that the external appearance of the sugar factory, that looks like this one. This is the sugar factory, this is the chimney, and this is the external appearance of sugar factory. These are the vehicles that carries the sugar cane from the fields towards this sugar factory. Now how the sucrose or sugar can be manufactured from the sugar cane, that we have to study here. So there are 6 main steps that are involved in the manufacture of sugar from sugar cane. So these 6 steps are: first one is the extraction of juice. This is the first step. We have to extract the juice from sugar cane. Then second step is the clarification, which is also known as purification of juice. Third step is the concentration and crystallization. Fourth step is separation and drying of crystals. Our fifth step, that is the refining of sugar, and last step, that is the recovery of sugar from molasses. In India, this step is not conducted in India, means the recovery of sugar from molasses, that is not performed in the India. Now let us see the steps one by one. First is the extraction of juice. Now how the juice is extracted from sugar cane. So first of all, sugar canes are cleaned thoroughly and cut into small pieces, and these fresh sugar cane pieces are dropped over continuous belt of steel plates, which is called here cane carrier, moving over roller chains. From the cane carrier, these pieces are conveyed to a crusher fitted with a set of revolving needles and cut into very small pieces. So sugar canes are cut in very small pieces with the help of these revolving knives. Now these very small pieces of the sugar cane in the form of compact blanket are allowed to pass through two roller crushers and four sets of mills. So it looks like this one. So this is the compact blanket of the very small pieces of the sugar cane, and that is allowed to pass through two roller crushers and four sets of mills. Now here majority of the juice that is extracted by the crushers and the first two mills. Then we have to add cold or hot water, or we can sprinkle the water over the bagasse. Bagasse, that is a residual material after extracting the juice from the sugar cane. And here the residual juice gets diluted and can be easily extracted for further milling. So what is bagasse? Bagasse is the residual part of the sugar cane after extracting the majority of the juice, and this bagasse is looks like this one. This is the bagasse, which is the remaining part, which is fibrous material, that is rest when the majority of the juice is extracted from sugar cane by crushing it. Now here near about 90 to 95% of the juice is extracted, and this juice then weighed and measured as desired and then sent for clarification, which is also known as for purification. So next step is the clarification of juice, or that is also known as purification of juice. Now let's see here second step, that is the clarification or purification of juice. So we have the raw juice that has a brown color and it is turbid liquid, and that contains near about 15 to 20% sucrose and small quantities of glucose, fructose, vegetable proteins, mineral salts, organic acids like oxalic acid, citric acid, coloring matter, gums, fine particles of bagasse suspended in it in the form of say colloidal size. Now when this raw juice is allowed to remain untreated for some time, then what happens, this raw juice begins to ferment, and here the sucrose present in the raw juice that is fermented, and we get here the mixture of glucose and fructose. So to avoid the fermentation of sucrose, the juice is not allowed to stand unreacted for a long time. So we have to take the precaution, that is the juice obtained from the sugarcane, that is not to be allowed to stand for long time as untreated, or that is the further process. So here the juice is now passed through screens in order to remove the suspended impurities, and it is then subjected to clarification or purification as given below. So there are main two steps or two processes for the clarification of the juice. First step, that is known as here defecation, and second step is the carbonation and sulfitation. So what do we mean by carbonation? Carbonation is nothing but a process in which there is addition of or adding a milk of lime and treatment with the carbon dioxide occurs, whereas the sulfitation is nothing but the adding milk of lime and treating with sulfur dioxide. So this process are called here carbonation and sulfitation. So both these processes have advantage of their own, but in fact the combination of both these made to use to get better results. So let us see in detail defecation. So in this defecation process, the fresh juice is allowed to pass or allowed to run to remove suspended matter and then treated with 2 to 3% lime. It is a mixture of calcium oxide and calcium hydroxide until the pH of the juice that reaches to 7.2 in a defecator tanks, where it is heated with the help of steam coils. And here heating of the juice coagulates the albuminoids. Albuminoids means that is here is the presence of vegetable proteins and colloidal impurities. So these are undergoes coagulation by heating. Now these vegetable proteins are thus coagulated, and the free organic acids and phosphorus that gets neutralized with the help of that calcium hydroxide, and they gets converted in the form of calcium salts. So free organic acids and phosphates, they are converted into the calcium salts. So sucrose here partially converted into sucrome into calcium sucrosate. Sucrose is here partially converted into calcium sucrosate. Now let's see here the impurities raise to the surface of juice and forms a thick scum which is known as froth. So froth floats on the surface of juice and that can be removed. Now the hot juice that is transferred to settle in a settling tank, and these tanks are called here subsiders. The scum, that means the froth which is at the surface, and mud settle at the bottom are mechanically removed by passing the hole through a filter press, means that is a filtration process. Now here the precipitated calcium salts that are of the organic acids which are free organic acids and phosphates. These precipitated calcium salts, they are removed by filtration, and now the obtained clear liquid solution, that is the juice, that is pumped onto a conical tanks for next operation. So next operation is nothing but here the carbonation and sulfitation. So let's see the carbonation and sulfitation. So what happens here? A current of carbon dioxide is passed through the defecated juice, means clear juice, that contains unreacted lime and calcium sucrosate. So the passing of the carbon dioxide or passing of the current of carbon dioxide through the defecated juice, this process is known as carbonation. So this process that removes the excess of lime as calcium carbonate and decomposes calcium sucrosate back into sugar. So calcium sucrosate, that is here, undergoes decomposition and gets converted into sugar. So this is the formula of calcium sucrosate, C12H22O11 3 calcium oxide, CaO. So it is the calcium sucrosate, and with the help of this carbon dioxide it undergoes decomposition, and this sucrose, that is separated, and calcium carbonate, which is a white precipitate, that settle down, that is shown by this downward arrow. So this calcium sucrosate undergoes decomposition with the help of this carbonation, and we get cane sugar, or that is sucrose and a precipitate of calcium carbonate. Now here, this defecated juice repeatedly treated with sulfur dioxide, that is the sulfitation, instead of carbon dioxide, because this sulfur dioxide serves the same role as played by the carbon dioxide, but in addition to that, the sulfur dioxide acts as a bleaching agent. That's why it bleaches the juice and it produces lighter colored juice of the sugar cane. Now this prevents the formation of brown mass by oxidation and brings about coagulation of gums and albuminoids more effectively. So during the process of sulfitation, the solution is maintained neutral, means its pH that should be kept 7. So this is the necessary condition. Nowadays what happens here, the carbonation process is followed by sulfitation in order to ensure complete neutralization of lime and decomposition of the glucose sucrosate, or you can see that here sucrosate or sugar sucrosate. So this is the calcium sucrosate, and when it is treated with the sulfur dioxide, this process is known as sulfitation. Here also the decomposition of this calcium sucrosate occurs, and that forms the cane sugar or sucrose and the precipitate of calcium sulfite. Now here the color of this cane sugar, that is here light, or you can say that here white. Now the juice is again filtered in order to remove the precipitates. Now at the present time, all the big sugar factories, means nowadays all the big sugar factories in India are following double carbonation and double sulfitation process for the manufacture of cane sugar. Now our step third, it is the concentration and crystallization. Now here the clear juice obtained in step second, that is concentrated, means allowed to evaporate, here evaporated, in order to get the syrup under reduced pressure in a multiple effect evaporator, which are known as here vacuum pans. So it looks like this one. This is the external appearance of the multiple effect evaporator, where the clear juice is evaporated to get a syrup under reduced pressure, and its internal working, that is shown here. These are the multiple effect evaporators used in the manufacture of sugar from sugarcane. Now from this end, the sugar juice, clear sugar juice, that is allowed to pass, and it is then evaporated, and it is heated with the help of this steam coil. This is the steam coil. With the help of this sugar juice, that is heated and it is evaporated, and it is a series of this vacuum pans. So it is known as multiple effect evaporator, and it is used in the manufacture of sugar, or that is the sucrose. and the obtained concentrated juice that is then allowed to pass towards the vacuum pan. So there is a exhaust pump. So this is the internal working of the multiple effective evaporators. Now here the juice in the first pan is heated by exhaust steam from the engine of the factory, and the concentrated juice from the first pan is taken into second pan, and it is then heated there at lower pressure by the steam from the first evaporator. And now the concentrated solution from the second pan that is taken into third pan, and it is heated there at a still lower pressure by the exhaust steam from the second evaporator. So in this way, step by step, the pressure that goes on decreasing, and that's why in this particular process of concentration it saves a lot of fuel. Now they obtained a clear syrup or concentrated juice is boiled in a vacuum pan where evaporation is further reduces the water content to 6 to 8%. On cooling, here the partial crystallization takes place, means some crystals of the sugar are obtained. Here the formation of sugar crystals begins. Now the contents of this vacuum pan are sent to another tank fitted with the centrifugal machine. Now let us see the centrifugal machine. So this is the centrifugal machine. Here the partial crystallization of the sugar occurs here, and it contains some viscous liquid which is known as mother liquor. So this is the mixture of sugar crystals and mother liquor that is transferred into this centrifugal machine, and it is spin with high speed, and it gets separated, or it helps to separate the sugar crystals from the mother liquor. This is the wire gauge, and from this the viscous liquid that is given out, which is known as here molasses, and this molasses looks like, see here, this one. This is a dark and viscous liquid. It is a mother liquor here, and some sugars of the crystals. They are separated with the help of this centrifugal machine, and this sugar, it is discharged by lifting the hood H. So this is the separation of sugar crystals by centrifugation. Now let us see this step, that is the separation of crystals. So how the centrifugal machine helps to separate the sugar crystals from mother liquor. So let us see here, with the help of the centrifugal machine, the sugar crystals are separated from the mother liquor, which is known as the molasses. So what are molasses? Molasses is nothing but the viscous product that is resulting from refining sugar cane or from the sugar beets into sugar. Now it looks like this one. This is the molasses. So the sugar crystals along with mother liquor, they are held. Held means they are moving in a circle or similar curve with high speed. It is known as held in centrifugal machine, where the molasses is removed, and after molasses, if the molasses, suppose in little quantity, they are adhering, means sticking to the crystals of the sugar, then they can be removed by spraying cold water on it and hurling it in a centrifuge machine again. Now the sugar crystals are washed with little water in order to remove the impurities sticking to its surface. Now these crystals are then allowed to dry by dropping in a long pipe through which a hot air is passing, and then these crystals are bagged, means they are packed in bags. So this is the clear and pure sugar crystals, or that is the sucrose, and they are bagged like this one, means they are packed in a particular, say here, quantity or amount in bags. So this process is known as the bagging. So this is the process that occurs or that happens in the sugar factory. Now in case suppose the sugar crystals obtained are not pure white, they have suppose some brown color, and they have suppose if slight odor, then they must be further purified. So in the impure form it looks like this one. This one is the brownish color, or you can say that impure sugar. These sugar crystals which are in brown color in hot water, and means these sugars are dissolved in hot water and decolorized using the animal charcoal or activated coconut charcoal, which is known as Norrit. So this again the process is followed like filtration, concentration under reduced pressure, and crystallization as usual, means as described early or before. Now in short it can be represented like this. First of all, we have the sugar canes, and these sugar canes are then transferred or converted into juice by passing through the crusher, and we get this byproduct, that is the bagasse. It is also used as a fuel. So its flow chart that is shown here. This is the sugar cane. It is then crushed in crushing milling, and we get raw juice. This raw juice is then treated with the liming, then heated and clarification. So these steps are repeated number of times, and then we have the thin juice or clear juice that is allowed to evaporate, and we get here the crystals of the sugar, and they have, it contains some mother liquor. It can be separated with the help of the centrifuge machine. So we have here raw sugar, that is the sucrose, and here molasses. They are separated from each other. So this is the representation in short, the extraction of sucrose from sugar canes. Now this is the bags, or that is the bagging of this sugar, or this is the raw sugar that is bagged like this one, or that is also known as packing of the sugars. Now fifth step, that is the refining of sugar. Generally it is carried out in the USA or foreign countries, but in India the sugar that is in market is obtained as in the above process. Its next refining process is not done, but in USA and other foreign countries this sugar is further refined by dissolving the crystals of sugar in hot water and decolorizing the solution using the animal charcoal or coconut charcoal, and it is further followed by filtration, concentration and reduced pressure and crystallization as described before or as usual. So this is the packing of the sugars. Now here the sixth step, that is the recovery of sugar from molasses. So this step is also not carried out in India. So it is nothing but the recovery of sugar from molasses. Now in molasses near about 30 to 35% sugar is present, means sufficient amount of sugar is present in molasses, and this is boiled in order to get the fresh crop of crystals. So to recover sugar from final molasses, the molasses are chemically treated, and they are diluted and treated with the hot concentrated strontium hydroxide. This is the SrOH2 time. This is the strontium hydroxide that is used to treat the molasses, and here it get the product or that forms the precipitate of strontium sucrosate, having formula that is C12H22O11 3SRO, and this separated suspended, this is separated suspended in water and treated with carbon dioxide, that is the carbonation process carried out. When strontium carbonate separates as white precipitate and sucrose C12H22O11 present in the solution is decolorized using the charcoals and then concentrated as usual and crystallized as described above. Let's see, this is the reaction that shows the decomposition of this strontium sucrosate C12H22O11 3 times SRO plus 3 molecules of carbon dioxide. So it is the carbonation. So this strontium sucrosate decomposes into cane sugar, or that is the sucrose, and white precipitate of strontium carbonate occurs. So in India, the sugar is not extracted chemically from molasses, although these molasses contain 30 to 35% sugar, but these molasses are sent to distilleries where they get fermented and used in the manufacture of alcohols. So we have the alcohol manufactured, means in India the alcohol is manufactured from this molasses instead of the sugar. So overall the working of sugar factory, that is summarized here in the flow sheet, where the double carbonation and double sulfitation process for the manufacture of cane sugar is carried out in a latest or in the present time here. So here this is the sugar that is here, that is the sugar cane, and it is then allowed to pass through the crushers and mills. So this is the bed of cane pieces. This is the sugar cane carrier, and from here this sugar juice that is allowed to pass after the clarification into this particular stamps, where it is heated with the steam, and then it is passed through the another one tank through which the carbon dioxide is passed. It is the carbonation process. Then it is again treated with the sulfur dioxide, where is this sulfitation process occurs, and this now clear juice, sugarcane juice, that is allowed to pass through this particular tanks. It is known as multiple effect evaporators, or that are today are also known as the towers, where the steam coil is used for heating purpose, and here this juice is allowed to evaporate. So here is the exhaust pump. So in see here detail, it looks like this one. This is the multiple effect evaporator, where the juice is allowed to evaporate, or a series of this particular multiple effect evaporators are here, and finally we get here concentrated juice, and this juice is then transferred to vacuum pans. So vacuum pan is here. So this clear concentrated juice that is allowed to pass through this vacuum pans, where in this particular vacuum pan the partial crystallization process begins, and when the some partial crystallization process begins, this is allowed to pass through the centrifuge machine, where this centrifuge machine separates the sugar from molasses or mother liquor, and finally this sugar that is bagged. So overall process in simple way that can also be represented by this way also. This is the sugar cane. It is first of all crushed and we get raw juice and a byproduct as bagasse, which is used as a fuel. This raw juice then treated with the lime, heated and clarified. So these steps are repeated number of times. We get the thin juice. It is then evaporated so that we get the crystals of the sugar, and these crystals are then separated from their mother liquor with the help of centrifuge machine. So that centrifuge machine separates the sucrose or sugar from the mother liquor, that is the molasses, and we get this particular pure sugar, or that is the sucrose from the sugar canes. So this is the complete method, and final step that is here we have the completed this chapter, that is the carbohydrates. So today we have studied the open and cyclic structure of glucose, and we have studied the manufacturing of sucrose, that is sugar, from sugar cane in brief. So in my previous lecture we have studied the introduction, definition, classification of carbohydrates and nomenclature of the monosaccharides according to IUPAC system. In the next lecture we have studied reactions of monosaccharides, epimerization, mutarotation with mechanism, and in the next lecture we have studied the interconvergence, and in this way we have completed the chapter carbohydrates. So thank you for watching the complete video. So stay home, stay safe, and stay healthy, stay happy.